You're guilty of massive amounts of misinformation and disinformation as a part of a propaganda campaign.
Attorney General Pam Bondi has directed federal prosecutors to launch a grand jury investigation into members of the Obama administration over the 2016 Russia investigation.
A lot of them are guilty of it.
Yeah,
a lot of the people that are in that White House press conference, a lot of the organizations they work for, distributed absolute lies.
Total lies.
Tulsi Gabbard declassified documents that she says shows Obama administration officials manufactured intelligence to make it look like Russia interfered in the 2016 election.
How many of them during the whole Russiagate thing?
A ton of people think that the Russia thing was real.
Yeah,
Still. I mean, the whole Steele dossier where it was like completely concocted.
Funded by the Clinton campaign.
Correct.
Polished speeches, seamless articulation, and an image built with meticulous calculation finally collide with their ultimate challenger. When Joe Rogan slices directly through the glossy facade, with sharp accuracy and merciless humor, he dismantles the illusion of effortless cool, laying bare the pre-planned politics, the conveniently timed vanishings, and the celebrity-inspired branding that kept millions of people mesmerized. Every manufactured pause, every picture-perfect moment is ripped apart by Rogan as nothing more than stage theater. Masquerading as genuine leadership, this is not admiration. It is an unforgiving exposure of a marketing genius dressed in the uniform of a president.
Give me some volume and go full screen.
What you know now, do you wish you had a third term? You know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony, I'd be fine with that.
We know he wasn't really running the country.
Yeah.
We used to think he was actually running the country, and now they're like, no, he didn't even see those executive orders. That was all auto-pen.
Barack Obama has carefully constructed an entire second career by transforming every single public appearance into what feels like a cinematic monologue, staged for maximum effect. Joe Rogan cuts directly into that flawlessly ranged image, highlighting how the former president speaks with the cadence of a philosopher, yet carries himself like a polished brand representative. Obama doesn't simply talk, he conducts a full performance. The dramatic pauses, the softened tone, the deliberate drop in volume, the subtle rise of the chin. What emerges isn't the presence of a statesman, but rather the energy of a theater student who accidentally stumbled onto the set of the Oval Office. Rogan pierces through the spectacle and names it for what it truly is: performance art neatly packaged in a suit.
He doesn't give a
Here in the United States, countless publications provoke offense. Like me, the majority of Americans are Christian, and yet we do not ban blasphemy against our most sacred beliefs.
He doesn't give a They're
That's
just
a flat
going
out
for
goddamn.
it.
As president of our country and commander-in-chief of our military, I accept that people are going to call me awful things every day, and I will always defend their right to do so.
Flat out lie.
Efforts to restrict speech can quickly become a tool to silence critics and oppress minorities. We do so because, given the power of faith in our lives, the strongest weapon against hateful speech.
The former president has perfected the craft of appearing as everything to everyone, all while committing himself to as little substance as possible. One moment, he slips into the role of the easygoing, approachable dad who feels like part of the family. The next, he elevates himself into the untouchable figure of a global statesman, and sometimes, with remarkable finesse, he manages to be both personas within the very same sentence. It's a balancing act that has held his admirers spellbound for more than a decade. Rogan rips straight into that contradiction, ridiculing the way Obama can speak endlessly about themes of change and progress, yet still package it all in language that feels like a glossy college brochure, polished, inoffensive, and carefully stripped of anything that might truly provoke discomfort.
This is the accusation. They're throwing around the word treason.
I hate to say this, but President Barack Obama, there is now incontrovertible evidence that he was the spearhead of a seditious conspiracy to subvert the will of the American people and overthrow the United States government back in 2016.
They're saying that Obama knew that Russia did not meddle in the election, did not have any impact in the election.
The cult of personality surrounding Obama is the place where Rogan drives his critique the hardest. Admirers treat him as though he is the living embodiment of hope itself, a man who could stroll into a room and rescue the economy simply by loosening his tie and flashing a smile. The truth, however, is far less dazzling. Beneath the flawless delivery and the carefully measured grin is a politician who maneuvered through the same system as everyone else, only he did it under brighter lights. And with a better curated playlist, Rogan pounds away at the idea that charisma does not equal policy and charm cannot repair real-world problems. Yet Obama's most masterful illusion has been persuading millions to believe that somehow it can.
Obama during this Kamala Harris administration, it changed my opinion of that guy.
I don't understand how we got so toxic, so divided, and so bitter.
He said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that.
Did you have a high opinion of him before?
Yeah, I did just as an intelligent person, a statesman. He's probably like caught up in the system. It's very difficult to make real meaningful change. You think you're going to do something and then you get into office and you're like, oh God, what a quagmire this place is. But watching him just straight up lie about Trump.
The childish nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with crowd sizes.
The thing that got me was that very fine people thing, the white supremacist thing. They just kept trying to say that he was a racist.
When he's not complaining, he's trying to sell you stuff. You're running for president and you're hawking merchandise. Gold sneakers, $100,000 watch. Why are you selling the watch? What are you doing?
Which is this thing that I think worked in like 2017. I don't think it works anymore. I don't think people believe it anymore. We've gotten numb to all this stuff.
Rogan locks his focus on Obama's post-presidency glow-up, while most former presidents fade quietly into the background. Buried in memoirs and endless rounds of golf, Obama has transformed his years after the White House into the blueprint of a luxury lifestyle. Brand. It's Netflix deals, Spotify playlists, and globe-trotting speaking tours with ticket prices steep enough to fund the healthcare system of a small nation. Rogan rips apart the illusion that any of this has to do with public service. What he sees instead is a man monetizing the very myth he so carefully constructed while in office, and doing it with the smooth precision of a Silicon Valley CEO unveiling the next big tech launch.
We must, absolutely must, hold every one of these criminals accountable for the crimes that they committed. They are the most heinous crimes committed in American history.
But yet promoted this idea.
James Comey, John Brennan, Clapper, Rice, Biden was in the meeting. They briefed Barack Obama on Hillary Clinton's plan to, quote, tie Trump to Russia collusion lies. It consumed our national discourse for 5 years.
And then there's been some incredible clips of all these different news reporters, CNN and MSNBC, just saying over and over and over again, clear evidence of Russian collusion.
And then there's the ever-churning nostalgia machine. Obama's admirers cling to the memory of his speeches the way people cling to comfort food, choosing to overlook that much of his presidency was a masterclass in carefully engineered inaction. Rogan refuses to let that slide. He reminds listeners that while Obama was busy selling hope, he was simultaneously perfecting the craft of political fence-sitting. It's one thing to stir inspiration, it's another to lull an entire generation into a coma of passivity. Rogan shows no restraint in calling out Obama's obsession with being the cool president. From the staged basketball games to the red carpet celebrity friendships, every move was meticulously designed to reinforce an image of effortless charisma. The podcast host tears into Obama's uncanny ability to command the spotlight without ever uttering anything truly divisive. He could address war, economic collapse, or national catastrophe, and somehow frame it in the tone of a cheerful college commencement speech. It's a remarkable skill, yes, but at its core, it's also a calculated evasion.
When you look at the policies and the attacks on whistleblowers and drone strikes and all the other shit that happened during that administration and the coup in Russia, and like there's a lot that's, from a foreign policy perspective, that's very similar to what George Bush was doing. But what they were doing was highlighting social justice issues that came about during his administration, largely obscured the fact that the foreign policies were very similar to what George Bush was doing.
The pattern of selective activism doesn't escape Rogan's scrutiny either. He blasts Obama for picking cousins the same way an influencer cherry-picks sponsorships. Every issue must align seamlessly with his carefully managed image and carry zero risk of alienating his loyal fan base. There's nothing courageous, Rogan argues, about championing movements that are already fashionable. True leadership demands stepping into the uncomfortable and taking risks. When the stakes are high territory Obama rarely ventures into. Rogan paints him as a politician obsessed with the appearance of risk, all while ensuring he never encounters the actual danger. The celebrity friendships don't go unscathed either. Rogan torches the spectacle of Obama surrounding himself with Hollywood's elite, building the illusion of cultural relevance while actually existing inside a bubble more insulated than the average royal family. He mocks the absurdity of a man who claims to represent everyday Americans while spending his downtime on private islands alongside billionaires. Relatability is a tough sell when your weekends resemble curated spreads from Vanity Fair.
There is what Obama said on the same video. There is what Trump actually said. It's disgusting. It's a disgusting lie. And he's talking about George Washington. He said George Washington had slaves. Let's play it.
On both sides of a white supremacist rally.
You had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down a very, very important statue from Robert E. Lee to another name. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Excuse me, how about Thomas Jefferson? Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
Rogan likens it to a stand-up comic who spins a story for 20 minutes, earns thunderous applause, yet never actually delivers a punchline. The audience walks out grinning, but later, when the haze of charm fades, they realize nothing of real substance was ever said. He laughs at the carefully engineered portrait of Obama as the great unifier. In truth, the nation remained as fractured as ever, but the marketing machine painted a picture of a man single-handedly stitching the country together. It's the equivalent of crediting a mall Santa with saving Christmas while ignoring the retail May unfolding in the background. The illusion, however, worked flawlessly because Obama's delivery wrapped itself around people like a warm blanket. On a freezing night, here was a man warning about corruption in politics while comfortably waiting in the very same swamp as his peers. Rogan brands this maneuver the political yoga routine, an exercise in extreme flexibility of morals and positions, always concluding with a perfectly choreographed bow to the camera.
Is that the 2011 thing where Obama allowed people to use propaganda against United States citizens?
Hillary Clinton is and has been an outstanding public servant.
What was done then under Obama, effective repeal of it, was called the Smith Modernization Act.
She was a great Secretary of State for me.
At the time, the media and media control was seen as the linchpin crux of winning the Cold War, piping in pro-U.S. media influence.
Policy of my administration is to encourage transparency. Why my emails, the BlackBerry that I carry around, all those records are available.
Congress recognized the Frankensteinian monster they were creating by authorizing a covert, permanent Department of Dirty Tricks, and this is their phrase, not mine.
Hillary is instructed those emails that had to do with official business need to be disclosed.
To infiltrate and co-opt the universities, the unions, the media, the politicians, the judges, the whole swarm army.
Rogan takes aim at the Netflix empire as well, ridiculing the notion that these productions exist to educate or inspire. In his view, they're polished PR campaigns, designed to keep the Obama brand glowing. Each release arrives perfectly timed to rekindle nostalgia for the so-called good old days. It's like a musician long past their prime who hasn't produced a new hit in years, yet continues to profit by selling greatest hits albums to fans unwilling to admit the music has stopped. Rogan drives home the point that when a political figure owns the platform, controlling their own narrative, what the public receives isn't history, it's propaganda dressed up with a superior soundtrack. The fixation on legacy is where Rogan lands some of his hardest blows. Obama's entire post-presidency revolves around curating how future generations will remember him. Every interview, every documentary, every carefully staged appearance is another calculated brushstroke in a self-portrait he intends to hang among the so-called Hall of Great Leaders. But the truth beneath that painting is far more chaotic, and Rogan delights in smearing the polish. The timing of it all is flawless, so flawless it feels engineered. It's the kind of media strategy you'd expect from a Kardashian, not a former president, and yet it works. Because Obama knows his audience intimately and plays them with the precision of a master musician, tuning a finely crafted instrument.
You never seen it?
No.
It's amazing. He gets a glass of Flint tap water, and I swear to God, he drinks it like this. Watch this.
Can I get some water? I really did need a glass of water. This is not a stunt.
Usually when something isn't a stunt, you have to say
It's
that.
100% a stunt. When was the last time a president stopped a speech to ask, can I get a glass of water? They would never do that. They would have water ready for him.
Rogan's takedown isn't confined to Obama's politics, it targets the entire brand. He has meticulously constructed the tailored suits, the carefully modulated tone, the hand-picked playlists, all of it functions as a sleek package engineered to sell an emotion rather than a reality. That emotion is nostalgia for an America that, in truth, existed primarily in speeches and campaign slogans rather than in daily life. And while the strategy may be brilliant marketing, Rogan never lets the audience forget that nostalgia doesn't pay rent, balance budgets, or repair the wreckage left behind. By the time Rogan finishes, Obama is no longer the flawless orator or the shining symbol of hope. He's reframed as a masterful performer who has transformed politics into his own personal franchise. And the roast doesn't end there, because every polished move Obama makes in the future only adds more fuel to the blaze Rogan has already ignited. The performance goes on, and so does the relentless dismantling.
Like, I've had candid conversations with Tulsi Gabbard about what it was like.
It's a disservice to the American people that former President Obama's office and others who are criticizing the transparency that is being delivered by releasing these documents. They are doing a disservice to the American people and trying to deflect away from their culpability in what is a historic scandal.
She's a person, she tries to be friends with everybody, tries to reach across the aisle. She's got that whole aloha spirit.
Rogan digs even further into the theater of Obama's post-presidency, hammering the absurdity of a man who once commanded the global stage, now rebranding himself as a streaming service content producer. Each new project feels less like a genuine cultural contribution and more like a calculated brand extension campaign. The subject matter is always risk-free, the delivery endlessly polished, the narrative inevitably flattering. It's the kind of storytelling where the central hero just so happens to look uncannily like the executive producer himself. The entire enterprise plays out like a greatest hits tour, where the performer knows the audience isn't showing up for anything new. They just want to relive the old favorites and soak in the nostalgia. Rogan shreds the illusion that any of this is civic engagement when, in reality, it's about keeping the Obama brand firmly planted in the premium tier.
Isn't it crazy, like, when Obama was president, worst they could get on him is, remember when he wore that tan suit?
Why did you take issue with the suit?
Because you know the image makers in the White House. Here's a president coming out at such a serious moment where he should be addressing the country on such a serious matter, and he looked like he was on his way to a party at the Hamptons.
He never had a single moment publicly where he stumbled, where he said something really stupid. This is insane.
Then comes the merchandising of ideals. Every book, every podcast, every sleekly packaged production carries the same market-tested tone of moral authority. Rogan underscores how Obama has effectively transformed the very concept of leadership into a commercial product line, complete with a loyal audience that treats purchasing it as if it were a patriotic duty. The irony, of course, is that the consumers walk away feeling empowered, while the seller walks away with a fatter paycheck and a burnished legacy. Rogan takes another jab at Obama's well-honed strategy of selective invisibility disappearing whenever political reality turns inconveniently messy, and when he does resurface, it's always with a flawlessly staged presence crafted to dominate headlines, without ever risking controversy. Rogan compares it to the political equivalent of a pop star dropping a surprise single right. As public interest begins to fade, the material doesn't need to be revolutionary. It simply needs to remind people that the brand still exists. It's a cycle of performance art without an expiration date, and Rogan makes it clear that the show is still very much in production.